How's it going? Welcome in, Kurt Magoosh, Slaughterhouse Sports. Just a great day of college football today. No, I'm going to keep this to Nebraska, talking about the Huskers. You guys can obviously watch a lot of videos that I make on every subject. Yeah, it's sad that that Frost isn't going to work out, and I don't know if Frost needed to be older for the job. I mean, the thing is about Frost, like at least he got his opportunity. I'm really glad that he was able to come back this year. And he caught lightning in a bottle at UCF. And, the run schemes that he has, like I think can be effective. Like outside zone can be effective. But in terms of defense, like he doesn't really know how to recruit defensive players. And he needs to like evaluate defense. And Chenander's a great guy, great friend, just like Verduzco was a great friend, and Ryan Helder great people too, and Adrian Martinez. So it's really tough. I think everybody needs to evaluate what's going on with the program, but program just needs more talent, and defensively, it just needs, it needs transfers and it needs good defense. And that's what the program needs. Last year, they kind of had that ability, but, you need to have a running football team in Nebraska, one that's going to pound the rock and one that's going to get after it defensively. And that's the identity of Nebraska football. So whatever the future may hold for Nebraska, in terms of that, I think that you got to look for a staff that's going to prioritize, really running the ball, physical, someone who's very good with time of possession, and who understands, the ability to grind out games, running the ball, and finishing games in the fourth quarter. And I think Nebraska has the ability to do that. Whoever comes in, the next coach, like it's going to be hard. It honestly is hard for me now to just, even make this video on Scott because, man, I like Scott Frost as a guy. He's very genuine. He's very honest. He loves Nebraska. He's salt of the earth. He's a kind person. When Scott Frost came back to Nebraska from UCF, he had UCF. At the time, he had UCF, on the doorstep of being a national power, and he came from Oregon with Chip Kelly, so he was exposed to greatness. He was exposed to championship-level football, and I know that they beat Auburn in that game, and, there's just the recruiting for Scott Frost, it's probably just been too tough, and maybe in Arizona or Florida, his offenses can really hum at a high level. It is tough to get guys to Nebraska that are unbelievable football, unbelievable like wide receivers and skill position guys. Usually you look around the country, it's Texas, it's Florida, it's California. Can be done, but, the mold to win in the Big Ten, as Wisconsin has shown, as, Minnesota, even Iowa, is to get big offensive linemen and play physical ball and play good on special teams. And Frost never really had an identity. He wasn't really able to execute the offense at an all-time level. And then defensively, he let it get by. The defense too many times was just not up to the task. Last year they were, but in years prior they just weren't. They never played complementary football. They didn't know what to do in the fourth quarter. It wasn't that well organized or managed. For Scott, take a year off, you're 46 years old, knock on wood for good health. I don't believe that this is the end of Scott Frost, the coach. I believe that he could still be, a great head coach. I have hope for people. That's the way that I am personally, and I think he knows a ton of offensive football, and I think that he can execute at a high level. And as a coach, if you're going to get fired, you might as well have it be for on-field performance rather than a scandal off the field, rather than controversy off the field. And Nebraska and its players have been, model citizens on and off the field, and that's why it hurts for guys that have come through the program like Cam Taylor-Britt and like, JoJo Domann and Garrett Nelson and Adrian Martinez and guys like that. Even the new transfers, it hurts. It hurts just to see a program do it, and for both parties, it's going to be best, moving forward. It is what it is. But a lot of people get high off of teasing Nebraska fans for being romantic about Scott Frost or being romantic about the 90s. But I think that those people are just they're mean, they're callous. They don't really have a lot of heart. They maybe they didn't have a good past life, those people. And they always tease Nebraska for striving for greatness and for believing in Scott and this whole process. And they're allowed to tease, but I'm allowed to, just try not to view that, I guess. And the national media views Nebraska as a punching bag. I think that's what makes Nebraskans great, is that they are kind of that, they can kind of take in the Bo Pelini, us against the world mentality. I mean, the defense just isn't there. And tonight, even against Georgia Southern, Georgia Southern has better football players, better schemes, better talent in a Sun Belt team on defense. So now you see everything you can get. And I credit Trev Alberts, too, because he waited on Frost. And, last year's team came within, they came within margins of beating Michigan State. Their defense was really good last year against Michigan State, and Ohio State, and it came down to the last few drives of those games. And those are really good Big Ten teams. And you look at the Big Ten, and it's not all that hard to, make the Big Ten championship. You look at Wisconsin, they always have clunkers, kind of early in the year. Not always, but then you look at Iowa as well, and Iowa can be beaten. Their offense just never has really been that explosive. It's always possible to beat them. And Nebraska, even with Frost, has been in games against Iowa. So you look at this conference, and other than Penn State looks to be getting better, Ohio State and Michigan, in the Big Ten East, even Michigan State, the West is a gettable league. And Illinois is playing a little bit better football right now with Brett Bielema. That's the kind of guy that probably Nebraska needs, is a guy who's going to recruit the lines, and a guy that's going to hire, really good defensive coordinator and going to get aggressive players that can really, win with speed. And the next hire should be a little bit flashy, but not incredibly flashy. Who knows who it's going to be? I know it's probably going to take me and Husker fans a long time to warm up to, the new guy now that Frost is gone. It's emotional that, a son in Nebraska, Wood River guy wins a national championship, whose parents are coaches back in Wood River. The fact that Scott, I just remember him in that picture of all the old players from the 90s, all the black shirt guys, when they're at the press conference, and, they're all hovering around Scott. Matt Davison is there, and, they're just kind of joyfully playing with Scott, pushing him, giving him hugs. That camaraderie, that brotherhood of Nebraska, that tradition is what makes Nebraska so special. It's what makes certain programs and certain sports organizations. The history is what really makes, a fan. The history is what makes it. If you're above the age of 25 and you love history, and you go back in time and you reminisce on great periods of your life when you were younger, you're going to enjoy history, and that's what kind of Nebraska football has been about. This is not to say that the future, again, won't be a little bit better. There'll be some wins. You fought with Scott, that the team could honestly get back to competing for the national, in the national spotlight, can get on Michigan's level, can maybe make a college football playoff, can try to win a Big Ten championship in 5 years, and at least play in one, and it never happened. And it's unfortunate. I think it's best for Scott. And he'll reevaluate, and I don't want to see people quit. I don't like quitters, so I want Scott to battle this tooth and nail, try to beat Oklahoma, try to prove this video all sorts of wrong. And if he gets relieved from his duties, maybe take a year or get right back into the fold, man. Just keep fighting. Try to get back into college coaching, try to take over a program, do things a little bit differently. And you never know what will happen. Maybe his program is great. Maybe he can help assist the staff in a few years. The new coach who comes in, though, it's going to take about a year. It's going to take 2 years for that coach, to really settle in, and it's going to take time to. It's going to be painful when if Scott Frost, like we expect, is let go. It's going to be painful for a lot of Nebraskans, and I'm in pain just thinking about it. I'm not a Nebraskan, but I really thought that this could work, and I love Scott Frost, the person, and I believed in his ideas of offense, and I believed in his personality and his ability to sell Nebraska. And unfortunately, he didn't give his team that much confidence late in games, not enough rah-rah stuff late in games, wasn't organized late in games, ignored special teams. Defense, he wasn't really on top of it that much, was distracted with Bill Moose, and then offensively could never get the offensive linemen to work, never develop wide receivers, is mixing guys in and out too much, trying to do too many things instead of just keeping it really simple. I think Frost is always trying to get receivers in the game, always trying to rotate running backs. It's a whole laundry list of just trying to do too much. And really not developing the offensive line, being too engraved in the offense, maybe being at the beginning a little too overconfident, and then, pandemic hit, and then he couldn't fill out the roster, and it was a harder job than he expected to recruit and to get guys to Nebraska, and it was hard to win, and it's a lot of pressure. It's a big fan base, a lot of people watching. And at UCF, I think he enjoyed football more. I do, but I think he would have always regretted never giving Nebraska a shot. And I'm glad that Bill Moose gave him an opportunity. And you shouldn't regret it at all. You swung, you tried, and it didn't work out. And now we have clarity. And I'm proud of Trev for really sticking with Scott Frost and sticking it through. I kind of hope he does give him the rest of the year. And it's done in a classy manner. I really do. It's just disappointing. And when you're losing to Georgia Southern and, barely beating North Dakota and then losing to Northwestern, who then, of course, loses to Duke today, man, it's going to be a long year unless it's a magical turnaround and Trev lets it happen and they go 8 or 9-3 and somehow beat Oklahoma. The offense isn't even that good. The running game's okay. Teddy looks like he's hurt. Casey was all right today. He was okay. He's a decent quarterback, but the whole team just isn't very good.